not that different than the kind of hypocrisy you see from the Democratic Party. And so here's what I think is going on is we've become lazy as a Republican Party. My parents taught me you get ahead through hard work and commitment and dedication. The way you spell luck, you say good luck, you spell luck with W-O-R-K.
That's right.
That's what I learned growing up. I think we've become lazy as a Republican Party, but I'm not just talking about the tactics. I'm talking about something deeper than that. We have gotten used to just criticizing the left-wing agenda. Race, gender, sexuality, climate. But without actually having the spine to stand for something. What do we actually stand for? Individual, family, nation, God. That beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage and the spine to actually stand for something. That's what pulled me into this race. Like probably many of you, actually. I am an entrepreneur. Started multiple businesses. My wife is a surgeon, throat surgeon at the Cancer Hospital at Ohio State. We're raising two sons. One is 3.5 years old, asleep right now in our apartment in Des Moines, which we do have. So he'll probably be here by the end of this if he wakes up. Another one's 16 months old. It's not a normal time in our life to be in this journey, I'll tell you that. But I was pulled into this because I saw a Republican Party that for a long time we have been running from something. Now is our moment to actually start running to something. To our vision of what it means to be an American today. What does it mean to be a citizen of this nation? That's what's on the table in this election. This is far deeper than one individual issue. I mean, I care a lot about reviving our economy, keeping us out of World War III, shutting down the government bureaucracy, which I think is the root cause of both of those things. But I think this is deeper than that. It is about reviving our national identity, pride in this country, answering who we are as Americans. In my generation, I'm 38. I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. And I do think it takes leaders from the next generation, fresh legs, to lead these revivals. There's a reason why Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. But I'll tell you, yes, people my age, what does it even mean to be an American? You get a blank stare in response. It's like a deer in the headlights moment. That's what this campaign is about. What does it mean to be an American? To me, it means we believe in those 1776 ideals. Ideals like meritocracy and the pursuit of excellence. That you get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. That's why I've said we'll end affirmative action and racial quotas in every area of American life. It's been a cancer on our national soul, and we are done with it. What does it mean to be an American? It means we believe in the rule of law. And I say this as the kid of legal immigrants to this country. That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. That's why I've said that we will use our own military to secure our own southern border and our northern border too. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in this country. It means that the people we elect to run the government should be the ones who actually run the government, not the cancerous three-letter government agencies that are actually running the show today. So, apply some simple rules of the road. I can do this as U.S. president. If I can't work for you for more than 8 years, which I think is a good thing, then neither should the federal bureaucrats who are reporting into me either. 8-year term limits for the bureaucracy instead of civil service protections. That's how you train the flag. But one step deeper than that, 75% reduction in the number of federal bureaucrats by the end of my first term. That much we're going to get done. We have a plan to get 50% of that reduced in the first day in office. I can talk more about that as well. We want to shut down government agencies that should not exist. If they're redundant, we should eliminate them. The U.S. Department of Education spending $80 billion of our taxpayer money, give that back to parents across this country. If the FBI has failed to fulfill its mission and become corrupt in the process, as I believe it has, shut it down and reorganize it to the U.S. Marshals, to the DEA, and otherwise. We've offered the clearest plan for how we're going to actually gut that bureaucracy. I'm a CEO. That's my background. I've built and led multiple companies. Well, how about a little bit of a CEO mentality with our budget? Don't start with last year's budget as the baseline and then tinker around the edges. Start with zero as the baseline and then ask what's actually necessary. That's how you tackle the national debt. Rescind a majority of these unconstitutional federal regulations that Congress never had the authority to pass in the first place, that Congress never gave the agencies the authority to write in the first place. So we'll drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy, unlock American energy and every other industry in this country that's hampered by those unconstitutional regulations. These aren't black ideas or white ideas. These aren't even Democrat ideas or Republican ideas, not really. They are fundamentally American ideals that we fought a revolution to secure in this country. I believe those ideals still exist. I'm running for president to revive them. I believe we can. But I'll tell you what's happened in our country. We've gotten so accustomed, my generation in particular, we've gotten so taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences that we forgot all of the ways we're really the same as Americans, bound by those 1776 ideals. Here's how we're going to get it back. It's going to be by all of us, not just me, all of us, starting to speak your mind in the open again. You know, the best measure of our country's health, how are we doing? How's American democracy doing? Is it the number of green pieces of paper in our bank account? No, it's not the number of ballots we cast every November. It is the percentage of people who feel free to say what they actually think in public. Right now we're doing poorly. We have a culture of fear that has spread across this country like an epidemic. Fear is infectious. Courage can be contagious too. It just requires more of us willing to actually show it. That is what this campaign is about. Speak the truth, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Speak the truth, not just to the other side and the Democrats, but to our own side and our own party and our own dollars of our taxpayer money to drive us closer to World War III. That the climate change agenda is a hoax, and that the carbon capture pipeline in the state of Iowa is illegally using eminent domain to get there. I think only candidate in this race was able to say certain things about the FBI and its corruption, about the fact that birthright citizenship does not apply to the kids of illegal migrants in this country, which is part of how we're going to address the border crisis in this country. I think it's going to take a leader from the next generation. Somebody who is not captured by those special interests along the way. Every politician dances to the tune of their biggest donor, and in my case, that biggest donor is me. That's what it's going to take. We wouldn't be where we are if the existing establishment was going to fix the problems. They've made them worse. Ronna McDaniel, the chairwoman of the RNC, has now said I won't get a single cent of funding from the RNC for exposing some of the failures of our own party. But we have to be able to speak those truths, especially when it's hard. That's what we're doing every day in this campaign. God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. the nuclear family is still the greatest form of governance known to mankind. Capitalism is still the best system to lift us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government in the United States, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution is still the strongest and greatest guarantor of freedom in human history. We fight for the truth. We stand up for the truth. That is what won us the American Revolution. And that is what will win us the revolution of 2024. So, thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate your support this morning. They told me not to take questions. I'll take 2.
How do you get rid of the green agenda from the other side? And also, Joe Biden did not win the last election. He absolutely didn't. There's not one person in this room who thinks he did. How do you end corruption when I question if my vote even counts?
Yes, yeah, so two separate questions, but they kind of have a similar root cause. Use the word corruption. So the climate change agenda, as I've said it before, I've said it again. The climate change agenda is a hoax. I will rescind any unconstitutional regulation. The good news on this is much of this didn't even come from Congress. I mean, that's bad news because it shows how poorly our republic is functioning. But the good news is the president can fix that. Any regulation, from the EPA to the Department of Interior to otherwise, stopping new drilling projects, requiring the reporting of carbon emissions or otherwise, those are unconstitutional today. I swear an oath to the Constitution, I intend to keep it. We have to rescind those unconstitutional regulations. I can get that done in the first 3 months in office. So if there's one thing, the electric vehicle subsidies need to end. And you go across the board. Our own money. I mean, I think a lot of the subsidies even creating this fiction, I think it's a fiction, of capturing carbon dioxide, using eminent domain to run it across people's land, buried in the ground. For what end? It's just made up nonsense. So that agenda, I'm going to be able to end as the U.S. president. Now we'll move to your second question. I'm going to offer you a basic path forward here. I don't like sitting here arguing about election results, throwing our hands in the air and complaining about losing. Here's the solution, very practical. Single-day voting.
Yes.
On election day.
Yes.
National holiday. That'll bring us together. It's a project of national unity. Paper ballots.
Yeah.
Government-issued voter ID to match the voter file. And English is the only language that should be on the ballot.
Yeah.
That should be controversial. That's common sense. And if that's controversial, that tells you everything you need to know about what's intentional about this agenda. But I'll make a pledge. I want to unite this country. I'm not in this to just continue the ping pong of tug of war. I will achieve that, and once we do, I will make a pledge to the entire country that I am done complaining about failed elections or election integrity. You get to that place, that's my pledge to the rest of this country. It's how we're going to achieve it. Single-day voting, election day, national holiday, paper ballots, government-issued ID to match the voter file. English is the language on the ballot. We shouldn't have to argue about that, but I'll keep my promise. And then after that, we move this nation forward, and we're done with the election integrity and cheating debate. That's how we reunite this country, but do it in the right way that puts our own Constitution first. Maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and then I'll still hang out with you guys afterwards. I like your shirt.
Well, RFK Jr. recently met and talked to Janeway Beaches about what's happening in our sky. Are you willing to address that issue?
Oh, yeah.
It's so controversial, but yet it's affecting all of us. And much more aware of that.
So she's asking about unidentified flying objects in the air, what the government hasn't told us and otherwise.
The spraying, they're spraying.
Contrails, yeah. I mean, I think that the short answer is absolutely. I don't know why this is a taboo subject. My view is, we the people always deserve the truth. We deserve a government that tells us the truth. If you don't know, tell us you don't know. Tell us what you do know. That's what happened in the COVID pandemic. I mean, these things are deeply related. The issue, and I'm glad it's gaining some steam now. Actually, I laid out the funny thing happened is, and I appreciate this. The day before that UFO hearing that the House hosted, which actually was quite eye-opening for how long the government's been paying attention to this issue. I worry that sometimes Congress doesn't make good use of these hearings. So I went on Twitter and we just posted a list of 16 questions I think they should ask. The guy who's hosted the hearing, he printed them out and he just went straight down the list. And he actually at least asked the questions. We didn't get the answers. But I think it forced a discussion on the issue. But it's deeper than that. It's not just this one issue. You go back to what was the premise for our war in Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction. The government said exist that did not really exist in the same way. What was the premise for the bailouts in 2008? The Trump-Russia collusion hoax that never was. The Hunter Biden laptop story that was absolutely true. What we knew about the origin of the COVID pandemic. The Nashville transgender shooter manifesto that they refused to release until it was leaked. How our money's being spent in Ukraine, now audited. The numbers do not look good, but they won't tell us. We deserve a government that just tells the truth to the people again. It's like the end of that movie, Few Good Men. You guys watch that? You can't handle the truth. That's what the government treats us as today. You know what? We the people, we can handle the truth. And the reason, this is kind of a personal point, trust is a two-way relationship. The reason people do not trust the government is that the government no longer trusts the people with the truth. And I think if there's one thing I've hopefully demonstrated and will continue to stay true to for the rest of this campaign is that I would rather speak the truth, or at least share my convictions, and lose an election than to win by playing some carefully crafted political snakes and ladders. And I think that's the best evidence that I'll run this country the same way. Especially when it's hard to trust the people with what we know. That's how we're going to stay out of World War III. It's an important part of it. It's a big part of how we restore trust in our own constitutional republic, which is badly lacking today, and that's the kind of leader we need now. So thank you for that question. That's really what it's about, not just that one issue. The answer to your question is yes. Last one, please.
Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah.
How do you continue to fund it? And we've heard that the next 2024 increase is 3.2%. Last year was 8.5, I believe. We're under inflation, and
Yep.
we're getting a lot less.
Oh, yeah. To everybody else, thank you for the question. Critical. So everybody else, the debate is how do we cut and how much do we cut in Social Security and Medicare? Different ways of doing it, raise the retirement age, but they're all fundamentally cuts to the program. For a second, I'll sound like a crazy man, and then I'll tell you why it makes sense. What if I told you there was a way to increase Social Security benefits while also fighting our national debt problem in the process? It'd be pretty interesting, I would think. So I think that this is our last window to get this right. If the interest payments on our national debt, the interest payments, become the largest line item in our federal budget, then we're done. It's game over from there. We're about 5 years from that happening. But in the meantime, let me talk about how we buy down our national debt, then I'll talk about how we actually increase our Social Security benefits. Buy down our national debt. First of all, $7 trillion of our national debt was attributed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Two wars that didn't advance the American interest. The Taliban is still in charge in Afghanistan. Iraq is still a broken country. We're now verging to making the same mistakes again. I mean, Ukraine is Iraq 2.0. So, and you think the next $60 billion is the last amount? Forget about it. That's just the beginning if we're really going to stick in this for reconstruction and everything else. So that's $7 trillion less that we roll forward if we avoid making those same mistakes in the future. Drilling and fracking for oil and natural gas. We can actually use that to buy down several trillion of our national debt as well. So now you're into the low 20s as opposed to the mid 30s for national debt. This is our last window to get that right. And then also when the amount of debt comes down, the interest rates that holders of treasuries demand also come down. So the interest rates on our national debt then come down by half. Now let's come to Social Security. This, what I'm about to share with you, is a hard fact. If at the time that you began paying into Social Security, even later than that probably, if we had invested the Social Security Trust Fund in the same way that your financial advisor would tell you to invest your diversified portfolio across a large smattering of American stocks, bonds, cash, treasuries, whole thing. A person collecting $1,800 a month in Social Security today would be collecting, I'm not making this number up, close to $18,000 per month. I mean, that is government malpractice of the highest order. And the people have been paid into that system. You could be getting an $18,000 check per month in your mail. Instead, now it's $1,800, and they're telling you that the benefits are going to be cut. That's the flagrant incompetence of our own government. So it takes a CEO in the White House, but it takes somebody from the next generation who's going to think outside of that box. I can't change the past, but we can still start now for the next generation. So to my generation, they will be collecting $18,000 a month if we begin that today. And in the meantime, deal with the national debt the way I described. We won't have to cut a cent out of Social Security benefits for those who are collecting it today. And that's different than every other Republican. And not every other Republican. Trump's also been on the right side of this issue. But everyone else in this race is totally unimaginative. Now, Trump hasn't offered a clear plan for how to increase Social Security benefits. That's where I'm pushing the needle on this, and we'll execute accordingly. But for those who are talking about making those cuts, I'm not saying this for political reasons in the general election, but it's just a fact. We got one way to lose this election in a landslide. It is going to be the candidate from the Republican Party, if somebody's up here to cut Social Security benefits even a little bit. I mean, this is the one way, this is the one trap that the Democratic Party is waiting for. That's a good way to lose the next election in the landslide. But anyway, I'm not saying it just for that reason. I'm saying it because it's the right thing to do as well. That's how I'm going to lead this country. Thank you. Sir.
There are two issues. One, Social Security, when you file your taxes, you have to include your Social Security. That's not, we pay taxes on that.
Yep.
Why?
You should.
Social Security shouldn't even be on the tax payers.
Yep.
I work a job. It's my job to be on there. Okay. What do? The oil company. They're raising the price of oil, gas, 30, 40 cents overnight.
Right.
It's ridiculous. That's a ripoff, as far as I'm concerned.
So thank you. What's your name, sir?
Yes.
You serve this country. Which division do you serve?
Years in the Army.
Years in the Army. But thank Dennis for his and 17 years old. How many years did you serve?
2 years.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. And I'll tell you this is, so on Social Security, he brings up a great point. It's a double taxation, right? There's a tax when you put it in, and then they tax the benefit when it comes out. So that's, on my view, the tax plan's simple. 12% flat tax across the board. Ordinary income, capital gain, corporate. And then eliminate a lot of the cronyist deductions and eliminate double taxation along the way. And that's a form of double taxation right there. So that one's easy. Now, I want to talk something more deeply about our national character from speaking to somebody who's served in this country. We have a 25% recruitment deficit in our U.S. military right now. I want people to understand why that is. The young people don't want to serve a country they are taught to hate. And I'll wrap on this point. Is, for those of you who don't know, I'm sorry for getting away. There's 60% of young Americans say they would sooner give up their right to vote than to give up their access to TikTok. That's a fact. It's where we are. So we got to confront that reality. I mean, I personally think the revival of civic education is just a first step. Every high school senior should have to pass the same civics test that every immigrant has to pass to become a voting citizen of this country. You got to know something about a country to value and have pride in that country. But there's something deeper going on. And we'll close on this today. I said in the first day of this campaign, the other room in the machine shed I'll say here today is, We're in the middle of a national identity crisis. That's what's going on in the country. Young people, my generation, I think it's true of all of us, we are hungry for a cause. We are so starved for purpose and meaning and identity. At a time in our history when faith, patriotism, hard work, family, these things have disappeared. And that leaves a black hole in our heart. And when you have a vacuum that runs that deep, that's when the poison fills the void. Wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism, depression, anxiety, fentanyl, suicide. It's not a coincidence. These are symptoms of a deeper void. And I am an America First conservative, proudly so. But we live in a deeper moment. To put this country first, we now have to even rediscover what this country is. That is going to take a leader from that next generation. I said it before, Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. There's a reason why the revivals are led by the next generation. That's my responsibility. Half the job of president, we talked about it, some great questions this morning, and thank you for it, our policy. But the other half of the job right now, more than ever in my lifetime, is reviving our national character. Answering who we are as Americans. And this is personal to me. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago. In a single generation, I have gone on to found multiple multi-billion-dollar companies. Living a life my parents would have never imagined for me when they came to this country with no cents in their pocket. Speaking my mind freely at every step of the way. That's the American dream we want to pass on to our two sons. And I worry it's not going to exist. If they get to high school before we fix this, I don't think we have a country left. That's what gives us our sense of urgency. And we're asking for you guys' help. Matt said it, my friend Matt, he was your Secretary of State. I'll say it to you as well. 30 minutes of your time to save this country, to keep us out of World War III, shut down that deep state, revive national pride in this country. You guys do your part. I'm going to do mine. Our family, we will stop at nothing in the sacrifice we're going to make for this country. We're not doing this because I covet that job. There's the easier way to... this country's blessed us with a lot. I didn't think I was going to be running for president a year and a half ago, if you asked me. But we are in this because I believe it is going to take somebody coming from the outside with fresh legs who has not yet been wounded in that war to actually lead us to victory in this war. And if you guys do your part, I'm not asking for a donation of your money, I'm asking for a donation of your time. An hour a week between now and the caucus. I can't compete with the super PACs. Our family's investing immense amounts in this campaign, but this campaign is otherwise run by the super PACs, serving you up the ads on television, serving you up the mailers in your mailboxes. We're doing it from the campaign, and I'm competing. We're going to stop at nothing, but we can't compete with the super PAC industrial complex. We're doing it this way. Bottom up. Been to about 10 pizza ranches in the last 48 hours. And we're going to go to more today. But I mean what I said in the beginning. L-U-C-K is spelled W-O-R-K. My dad said it. I thought it was corny then. Now I'm a dad. I say it the same way. If you guys do your part, we will do ours to make sure that the United States of America is still the nation. You'll look your kids in the eye, and I'll look my kids in the eye, and we'll mean it. When we tell them that you get ahead in this country with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication, and that you know what? You are free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to. And with your help on January 15th, that is what we're going to revive to save this great country. Thank you for coming out, guys.